need to call you right now. Be ready.
Did you all share the live stream
Yes.
address? Yeah, we're live.
Everything's fine.
I'm good. I'm very
That's good.
Welcome. Huh? I have to shut up the music. Do it.
Awesome.
Okay, welcome everybody at Queer Currents.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, and I always have to tell the new people in the room what Queer Currents is, especially the viewers at home.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think everybody here knows Queer Currents.
Yes.
But Queer Currents is basically an event we organize around the Pride Week in Amsterdam to bring more content and more discussions and more talk, and especially also more culture to Amsterdam and to the Pride Week. And it's an event we started last year. It's the first edition. This year is the second edition, and we're already day 9, I think. And so it's 15 events, 50 days, 15 locations. And we already had an amazing set of events. And as I said, I'm open at the moment, so everything comes really in. And so it's great to have you here, Noleca.
Yes. Yeah.
And, and you have to pronounce my name now.
Hi.
Yeah.
Close?
Close. Very good.
I've been in Amsterdam for 3 months.
Yeah.
I'm figuring out the steps.
Yeah.
I'm figuring it out. I'm getting it together.
Yeah. And especially, of course, I will step out of the image, but especially tonight, I'm really excited to have you here and have the talk here because I'm a parent.
Yes, we see that.
Yeah, I'm wearing especially for today the dad shirt. And I'm a very proud dad. And well, I have a special story because I was married, 2 twins. And so it's interesting how you deal with the subject of being a parent of, I have no queer kids, but I'm a queer parent. And I'm really excited to hear about you being a parent with having queer kids. And I also really like the idea we discussed when we were here with Danae, that there's a big difference between being a queer parent or queer parenting.
Absolutely.
And that's, I think, one of the most precious things, and one of the things I also want to share with you before we start, and I let the room to you, is that, like in every discussion, it was about having a safe space. And like every subject we came back to, having from girls like us to yesterday we had 5 teachers from art academies, and how they teach queerness on an art academy. Very young children, very, very vulnerable. And then again, you hear, you really need to create a safe space. And I think that's one of the main things as a parent to create, also for me, for everybody, to create a safe space.
I mean, we're going to get into it. It's like with a safety.
Yeah. Okay, I'll step out. Thank you. Great to have you here in our house.
Thank you for having us.
Watch us on www.queercurrents.com. There you can find all the
content.
Events. Yes.
I myself have been going back and rewatching some of the talk and the dancing them down these stairs. If you have not seen that, you need to go find it. I got my whole life. That was like amazing.
Fernando van der Kraats and Kevin Gums. Yeah.
It was incredible.
I step out.
Yeah, step out. So, hi, I'm Noleca Radway. I'm going to tell you a lot about who I am and like what I'm about, but I think I'll start by just asking us all, like, it's interesting that Hyde was saying around creating a safe space, but I really want us all to focus on being present in this time, wherever you are in the world, wherever you're watching this, for sure, you are in the midst of like revolution and all of that. We find ourselves like the movie we're going. And so if wherever you are, everyone in this room, we're just gonna start by like just taking a breath so we can all get present with each other. So if you put both your feet on the ground, wherever you are, you don't have to close your eyes. You can if it makes you feel more comfortable. Take a deep breath in. 1, 2, 3, out. Another deep breath in. Out. We're gonna take one last deep breath in. And when you exhale, just make whatever sound comes to you and let it out. Hi. I'm so excited to be here. My work is around doing everything I can possibly do to create avenues to free our children. I think of freedom as this thing that is attainable, but also elusive. And what I mean by that is that it can be really hard to get to that freedom, but it's when you are around children and the younger they are, like 1, 2, 3, you're just in their space and they don't know nothing about what's going on in this world. They are moving around, they're making choices that make sense to them. They are free. You know, like everyone asks me, like, what does freedom look like? I was like, go sit with a 2-year-old. It's gonna drive you so crazy because you don't know what it's like to be around that level of freedom, that level of like, I don't give a fuck. Like, I'm just gonna go and like move through the world in ways that feel good to me. And there's a way that we all can get back to that. And so I was really excited when Ira from Kip Republic invited me to be part of this queer currents conversation, because I think queerness is one of those amazing pathways back to our own freedom, like embracing that. There's something about embracing that is like, yes, give me my free. And so we are going to have a conversation. I host a podcast called Raising Rebels. It's about oppressed parents trying to raise free children. And I think that all of us are oppressed. When I think about that, I think particularly about marginalized communities, Black people, people of color, queer folks, but in general, like, we are all living under this oppression of patriarchy, white supremacy, and if there's ways in which we internalize those things unconsciously in our raising, like we're just breathing it in. It's how we've been raised, it's how we've been socialized, and even when we're trying to push back against it, there's a way in which we have these lovely children, and it just starts to like, we just start to go back to those things. All of a sudden, we want them, make sure they get into the right college. We want to make sure that they figure out how to assimilate to this culture, even though we're trying to reject it. And it's hella confusing for children. And it's especially hella confusing. And it's hella confusing for parents too, because you start to become a tool of the oppression that you're trying to shield your child from. And I feel like the way that we do that is like really reflecting on who we were as children and what all that's about. So today we're going to be talking about queer parenting and the difference between queer parenting and being a queer parent. And whether you're raising queer children, you identify yourself as a queer person, or you're just living in this world and trying to embrace difference, I think it's a meaningful conversation to have. And so today I am joined by 2 lovely mothers. I'm going to start with Leanne, who is, where are you joining us from? Tell everyone.
So from Saba, I'm on the smallest of the Dutch Caribbean islands. It's 5 square miles, it's super tiny. And yeah, that's where I'm at.
Awesome. Awesome. And I'm also joined by Marley, who, like me, is living in Amsterdam right now. I guess we start well, say hi to people, Marley.
Hi, people.
I'd like to start, we always start the podcast and conversations with one word to describe how you're feeling right now. So Marley, one word.
Anxious,
Okay.
but it's not because of this. It's because of everything you mentioned earlier.
It's okay.
I've been in a heightened state of anxiety and just constantly trying to renegotiate safety.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like the world is really triggering right now. So I'm kind of trying to create buffers always.
Mhm.
So I'm just like, yeah, always just checking in,
Mhm.
breathing like you set us up for. But I'm happy to be here.
Yay. What's one word to describe how you're feeling?
Vulnerable, because of all that Marley just said. Because I just finished a performance workshop that kind of scraped me raw. So, yeah, but I'm very excited to be here as well.
I am feeling incredibly blessed, like incredibly. Thank you for trying to. Incredibly blessed. So tell the people a little bit about yourself, Marley.
Oh yeah, sure.
Whatever you want us to know. You don't have to get all in your business, but like
Okay.
what you feel comfortable sharing.
I'm originally from New York. I've been living here for the past 7 years. I'm a writer. I am an organizer. I'm a curator. I'm the collective of Black women
Yay!
from across the diaspora who are living in Amsterdam.
Mhm.
We started in 2015, basically like, where the Black people at? And just like trying to have a centralized space for us to convene. Yay! Yeah, so it's a beautiful community. It's where I call home. I'm also an editor of a literary journal called Versal, and we yearly collection of poetry and prose. And this year we're publishing our first book, a collection of poetry. Yeah, and I have a lovely 8-year-old son.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, you're like big. Like I love it. I love it. Leanne, tell us about yourself.
Okay, so where to start? The first thing I have to say is like the dearest thing to me right now is that I'm actually the aunt of Tiana. I'm mothering my niece, and I've been doing that for the last 3 years, and it's been a complete experience, and I'm very thankful for that experience. In addition to that, I'm an LGBT activist on St. Martin and also for the region. So on St. Martin, I'm the chair of St. Martin Alliance for Equality, Safe SXM. And for the region, I'm the chair of EK, which is the Eastern Caribbean Alliance for Diversity and Equality.
Wow.
In addition, I just finished a book of short stories and poetry called Here. So I don't know, I did a book launch in Amsterdam last year. It was very nice. And that's my baby. It took about 20 years for me to get that book out.
Wow.
So I'm very, very proud of it and pleased with it. And at the moment, I'm very happily unemployed because I just of an organization that helps vulnerable people get a job in the labor market. But I felt like for a long time already, like the artist in me was kind of pulling me, saying like, come on, give me some attention right now. And so with everything that happened for the year, with COVID, and also I had some really close people to me die in the last year, I just decided it was like now or never, and I took the break to focus on my art. So that's me in a nutshell.
That's me too, I hope. Like, that sounds like amazing. That's amazing. So Marley, tell us about your person, your child.
Oh, my child.
Yes.
Oh, okay, you make me cry. My person, yeah, his name is Sekani. He's 8 years old. He currently does not identify as queer. But I don't know, he's dope. He like wants to be a ninja. He like builds swords. Like all quarantine, he was just like making swords out of sticks and like wood and like watching YouTube video. He like wanted us to buy him a drill so he could, not a saw, so he can like make proper swords. Yeah, he's like a maker, also very much into video games. Likes to bake. Yeah, he's
Yes.
he has a wide palette when it comes to music. He's like, you'd be proud of Lene. He loves all sorts of music, but he also loves his own kind of thing, like rock, which I don't like, but he's just like, he's like, he like bought himself an electric guitar so he can like, he's just really dope. He's very cool. But he also likes Kids Bop, and he'll like be in the mirror in the bathroom with like be Justin Bieber like turned all the way up, and he's just like, that's also his jam. So,
I love it.
Yeah,
I love
he's-
it.
Yeah.
I love
He
it.
has a journal. He writes in it every night.
Okay.
He's so sweet.
Really
He's so fly.
Black children don't get gushed over enough.
Yeah.
Do it.
Yeah.
Do that
Yeah.
thing. Gush over your niece now, too. Tell us all about her.
Okay, so my niece is Tiana. Her nickname is Tika, but she's been through a lot. And actually, I said my niece, but like even before she was born, that's been my child.
That's right.
So like even when she was in my sister's belly, I would just go every day and talk to her and be like, I'm so excited. Can't wait till you get here, whatever. And so my sister would also ask me to be her godmother. And so like from the moment like that just cemented it for me, So like every day I was just going to talk to this baby. And she's like, what is wrong with you? I was like, no, this is my baby, And when she was born, my now ex-wife and I used to have her all the time. So we had her all the time, everywhere. And she just, she grew up with us. And she's like, I don't know, she's everybody here, because like I live in a pretty conservative small island. Like they always say she's extra, and they're like, how is she so loud? And for me, those are like all the things that I love about her.
That's right.
And I encourage it. And she's so smart. She's super smart. One of the things we do together is our makeup story. So she already has a story, and we're hoping to publish it soon. That she made up and I wrote down and everything. And like Marley's son, she really likes music. She had drums. Now she's graduated to a guitar as well. And she comes to me. She's like, do the video. So she wants me to make a video of her jamming on the guitar and stuff. And her favorite song at the moment, like she goes through stages. So she really likes calypso. I like calypso. She really likes calypso and soca music. But her favorite song at the moment is Rihanna's "Shine Bright Like a Diamond," and she asked me to wake her up playing it. So every morning, and then she wakes up and starts singing it immediately. But yeah, like, to me, like, and also what's interesting is that because I live very near to my grandmother, so we go to visit my grandmother every day, and there I see like a generational issue, like between my grandmother and her sometimes, because my grandma's like, doesn't she sit still? And I'm like, no, because she's 4. And now Tiana says it. So I'm like, no, I'm 4.
That's right.
Yeah, I like the way that she really stands up for herself. She's very assertive. So I really enjoy her.
Oh my goodness, you guys are making. I love the. I feel like they're in the space with us. I'll share a little bit. I feel like the world knows them because they're just in everything with me. But I'll say I have 3 daughters. The oldest is 14. Her name is Blue, and she is. Oh my gosh, what is she? Is like. She is like the moon. Like she reflects everything that is like good in the world. Like everything, like you'll be in her space and everybody wants to be Blue, like grown up. Everybody like, I just want to be around her because she's just like, she's gonna make you feel so good about yourself. Like she's the best big sister ever. She's an empath, so she feels feelings, like people's feelings, and she's gotten to a space of like when she was little and it would happen, she would like, if there's a fire or something, like she could sense it and she's like gone the other way. Like, where are you going? It's like, there's trouble coming. And I know it's like, ow. And so we got to a place where we'd say like, so how do you, like, this is your superpower. Like, how are we going to embrace this? And she's at a place where she's like, all right, I get it. This is my superpower. I'm going to figure out how to like use it and like craft it and hone it and like help. And the other day her sisters were all emotional and she like sat in it with them and she's like, that was exhausting, but I get it. She's powerful. My middle child is like my self-incarnate, like reincarnated. And so that's really quite interesting. Her name is Moxie. She was made for this time. Like she was made for revolution. Like she was made for to guide us through this transition. She is an intellectual and she's an artist. She's the way. I guess that's what I would say. And then our youngest is Glory. And when you name a child Blue and then Moxie, and when you're having a third, and you're like, okay, we're gonna just like, I was like, oh, Glory, whoa. So she is she is an 8-year-old, but really she's like an 80-year-old Caribbean grandmother in an 8-year-old body. And she knows it, and she will tell you so, and people will come and tell me, she's like my grandmother. I was like, I know. She is like, she's raised in a house with these 4 other people who are always talking about like oppression and power. So she is very clear around the fact that she is the most marginalized in our community of 5, and she's checking us on it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And so, yeah, I'm in it every day with these 3 other young people and my partner, and they're why we're here in Amsterdam. They're why we knew to leave the US when we did. We listened to them, and they're like, okay, we gotta go. So here we are. So they're like the guide, they're the center of our family. And so I guess a question I have for the 2 of you to reflect on a little bit, or like give us some, we're in quarantine to some level. In Amsterdam, it's not as extreme as in other places. But I'm wondering, what have you learned about your child during these last 3 months?
For me, I really learned that Sekani is very much an introvert. I was surprised by how little he missed his friends, and how much like his world really revolves around me and my partner. Like how we would just be like, okay, we can do play dates. What should we do? And he's just like, I'm just rolling with y'all. And he actually really loved being home. Really loved just like doing family projects, doing puzzles, doing like, you know, he also makes comics. So he's like really a family dude. And that really surprised me. Not that I didn't think that he loved his family before, but he's 8, and you know he's an only child, so he really loves having friends. Like having friends is very important to him because he doesn't have a sibling. So I was really worried about like not being able to nurture those relationships during the quarantine. But I saw that, yeah, it just more than anything really made me realize and just hold on to the reality of our family unit as like this force for each other, that we can actually be for each other beyond just like the fact that we're related and live in the same home, but this kind of nurturing fact that we were giving to each other in a way that made it possible to not be out and about.
Say it. I want you to say everything you said again in blast. I want everybody to know, like you're enough. Like your young people that everyone's really worried about in the US, especially, go back to school, and like what about the socialization? Like this idea that it's like we're not all the same. Like we don't like there's not one way of being in the world, and especially for Black and brown and queer children, like those spaces outside of the home can be treacherous, you know, can feel so unsafe. We forget that. So tell us, what have you learned about your
Well, I learned 2 things. I learned how strong she was, and then also I learned how vulnerable she still was. So the thing is, when this whole thing happened, I was actually stuck in New Zealand. And I had left, and I told her, I'm going for 2 weeks. And we gave her a sticker book. She was going to put the stickers for every day that I was going to be gone. So then I left, and of course, COVID happened. New Zealand on full lockdown. I was stuck in New Zealand for 3.5 weeks. Afterwards, the Dutch government repatriated me to the Netherlands. I was stuck in Holland for 5 weeks, and she was with my mom and my brother. And it was very interesting because like the first 2 weeks, like from the beginning, she didn't want to do it, but I was like, okay, you're gonna try it, just see, you're gonna like it, you're gonna be with mama, you're gonna be with your uncle Lionel, whatever. So she was excited, but only for the 2 weeks. So she was like, okay, make sure you come back. And then when the lockdown happened, I really had to explain her that, like the planes aren't flying and everything. And she still took it fairly well till the day the last sticker hit the book. And then I was like, okay, I said, if you remember, we talked about it a few days ago, like even though you're gonna put the last sticker, because we had actually tried everything to extend this last sticker. And she would, she would catch on. She'd be like, no, I have to put 2 stickers today. She didn't put 1 yesterday. But I tried to talk her through it. But still, when she put the last sticker, and she realized, and then, you know, she was like, my mom told her, like, you know, but you remember Auntie's not coming back until a little bit later. She like fell apart. She was devastated. And my mom called me right away, and, you know, we spoke about it. And that, you know, it surprised me how much, even though it's something that I really try to reinforce her, how much she could articulate what she was feeling. And, you know, like just how sad she was. And she was like, I thought you was coming over. So it was like this whole thing, but, you know, we managed to talk it through it. And then Sable went in complete lockdown. And so they weren't allowed to go to school or anything. And she was so bored. That was her word, right? But she was always doing something, but she was so bored all the time. So it was just, you know, interesting here, looking at her work through all of that and being away from me. And every day, you know, talking about, she's like, when are the planes gonna fly again? When are the planes gonna fly again? And so when I finally like reunited with her, and like I actually was on Stable for 2 weeks, and we spoke every day for those 2 weeks, but I couldn't let her know I was on that island, because if I had let her know, she would not have, you know, it would have been much harder for her to stay apart from me. So when we finally reunited, it was like, she didn't even know what to do. I didn't know what to do. It was, She really surprised me, both the strength and the, you know.
You guys gonna have me crying here already. We just started. Wow. I think like that idea that you could see the duality of it, that's so much of when like children aren't allowed that, like you're both strong, like capable and strong and like resilient and fragile and like, like all of those things exist at the same time. And for so much of us when we were children, it was like, well, you're the weak, that's the weak one you gotta take care of, or that's the strong one that has it together, versus thinking like we all show up and respond to our adults in different ways and figure out how to make those things work. I like to start like in the conversations by doing recollections, and recollections are basically like looking back and recalling a memory. And the reason why I think it's important to do is because, well, first of all, which we've already done, is bringing the young people into the space, like to give them the utmost respect and to make sure that we remember like they're fully formed human beings and deserve respect and like admiration and just like a fullness of who they are. And then also, if we really hope to free our children, we have to free ourselves by looking back on who we were as children and like how the things that happened to us shaped who we are. So you guys do it for yourself, but these lovely women are going to share their stories with us. And so when I was thinking about being queerness and queer parenting and whether you yourself identify as a queer person or having a queer child, something that I heard recently a queer writer say was this idea that once he owned his queerness, he wanted when he walked into any room that people saw it and knew right away. Like he was like, I want to wear it. Like I don't want there to be any doubt that I am queer. I don't have to like tell anybody else, and that he moves in that space. And it made me think about the other side of it, or like when you're in that space of like hiding, right? Like before you, and sometimes you don't even know, like sometimes it's not like a conscious knowing of like, I want to keep this, but you're figuring something out and you don't know how it's going to be received. There's some shame involved. And then there's this hiding that happens. So I asked you both to think back as far into your memory as possible and to share a story of when a time that you hid. And it can be a literal hiding, it could be a figurative hiding, it could be a physical hiding, it could be an emotional hiding, but whatever came to mind for you. Marley, would you share with us your story?
Yeah, sure. So this is about a period of time when I was from the age of about 7 to about 12. My mother was in an abusive relationship, And we moved around. I have two younger sisters. So because of that relationship and the kind of precarity of our lives, we moved around a lot, went to change schools often. And when you asked about hiding, that's the first thing that came to mind, because I remembered there was just so much shame. I felt so much shame about what was happening at home. We were pretty poor, so also just our class situation and just feeling like nobody can know about my life. And obviously when you're that age, you're just want everybody to you want your friends to come over, you want to go to their house, you want to have sleepovers, you want to have, but I was just nobody can know about what's happening at home. It's so shameful. So it was a hiding of that, of my whole life, basically my whole family life, for a good 5 years. And I would say even after that, right? Because it's a part of your life still. So even after that period was over, kind of not feeling comfortable or safe talking about it. So still a hiding of it. And in reflecting on how it affects me now, it's it takes a lot of effort for me to let people in, but that is kind of what I recognize as the healing work, it's I have to let people in to kind of tell my inner child, you don't have to hide anymore. You can be yourself. It's safe to open up about who you are and about your life. But it took me a long time and it's also because of, like I said, moving around a lot and not being able to make friendships because you never knew when you would move again. So it was not being able to create intimacy with people because you're just this can end anytime. So as an adult, it became the same thing. Everyone stays at a distance because I don't really know what happens after this initial surface level relationship. So now I'm very much committed to intimacy within friendships and relationships because it feels really unsafe. That kind of the superficial level feels like a hiding when you're not able to be here's me, like your friend, right? Here's all of me, and feel accepted and still feel seen. Then it feels oh wait, I can't be my full self. And it doesn't feel good.
Thank you for sharing your story with us. Leanne, do you want to share with us?
Yeah, sure. So mine is actually a little bit two-pronged because it sums up a little bit what I've been through and what it brought up when you send the information. So for me, the first thing was I remember very, very young, my cousins and all of us playing daddy, mommy, all this kind of stuff. But I have to say, I think it went a step beyond what was what I think normally happens. There was a lot of really physical contact and whatnot between us as kids. And I remember thinking this is not okay, and my mom would not be okay with this. As liberal not as liberal because I didn't know the word liberal then, but as understanding as my mother was, I thought okay, she's not gonna be okay with this. So we really hit it. It was a thing that the kids did, and it was kissing and touching and whatever. And then of course my mom found out. And then she sat us down and she had a very, it was myself, my older sister, and my brother, and she said, listen, I've heard this, and I think she heard it because she overheard us talking about this word, soaking, which in the Caribbean context, or the Dutch Caribbean context, is it's almost like dry humping or something. So she heard it and she's like, well, what is that word? And then we explained her because, we're okay, it's terrified, but we're not gonna lie. And then she really sat down with us and explained, listen, you guys are going to get into all kind of stuff, but this is not what I expect of you. This is not what I want from you. If you have questions about things like this, I'm the person that you need to come to. And that was something very freeing for me. And throughout the rest of my life, even when I was really struggling with my sexuality, she was one of the first persons I went to and I said, listen, this is what I think. Her advice at the time wasn't very good because she's very Catholic. So she's like, listen, just pray about it. God is going to fix that. So that wasn't very, good advice. But it cemented something for me that she's always one of the first persons if I'm having an issue that I can go to. And I'm very appreciative of that relationship. But on the flip side, it also the other hiding that I did also was something, but it was meant to then protect her, because when I was 10 years old, my dad died a very tragic death. He was assassinated. He was a police officer here, and so of course, like the whole community was kind of shook up and everything. And my mom was pregnant with my brother at the time, and so what would happen was that people would tell us, like, we would be devastated. My sisters, my siblings, and I were devastated. But we had to be strong for her, you know. So people would say, like, okay, don't let your mother see you crying. You know, like you pray about it. Time will heal everything. Don't be so stressed about it. And so we had to then hide, I think, the level of hurt and pain and grief. And because of that hiding, we've never really been able to exercise it out of our being, I think, you know. So I look at my siblings and we all talk about it, and there's still a lot of this pain, even 30-something years later. And that was then to protect her. So the first time we were hiding was, you know, to protect ourselves. We didn't want to get in trouble. We didn't want to get licked. We're from a Caribbean family. You get licked. The second time was about protecting her, you know, and then not, you know, making her feel more pain. For me, when I'm with Tiana, I try to tell, like, listen, one of the first things as well with my mom, like, please tell me, if anything, I'm the first person you come to. We can have any conversation. We tell each other the truth all the time. So, you know, try to reinforce that with her. And then also tell her, listen, even if you have to say something to me that's going to hurt my feelings, you say it to me. We'll talk about it. We can tell each other everything. We'll talk about it. I'm not going to be upset, or if I'm upset, I'll explain you why. I may not be sad. So, like, you know, and really try to prevent her from having to deal with some of the stuff that I had to deal with in terms of hiding.
I mean, we're carrying so much. We are all carrying. I mean, you don't, like, first of all, I don't think we do this enough. So please, like, just sit and, like, tell your stories. I just think there's a way that we don't recognize how important our stories are in our own healing, the healing of others, especially as, like, Black women. So thank you. When I thought about the hiding myself, I mean, it's interesting. Like, I couldn't, it was hard to think of, like, one particular thing, and something, then all of a sudden, like, something popped into my brain, which happens often when we're doing recollections. And the thing I remember around hiding, I don't even know, I realize now, I must have been 12 years old, but I, you know, go to the bathroom and I see something in my underwear, and I've never seen it before, or didn't know what it was, what was going on, or anything like that. I got my period. I did not know. Never had a conversation about it with anybody. It wasn't like literally knew nothing. Like, it just happened, and I hid it because what the heck is going on with my body? And I must have figured out how to clean my underwear myself or put something on, whatever, I hid it. And then, you know, a month goes by and it shows up again. And go back to my hiding, because what else are you gonna do? And I remember I was, like, outside and I hear my mother calling, Noleca, come inside the house. But, you know, she's always calling, so whatever. So I go inside the house and she has my underwear. She's like, what is this? What happened? I was like, I don't know. It happened before and it's happening now. And she's like, this happened and you didn't tell me? And I was like, no. And I remember she was so, at the time I thought of it as, like, upset, but now as a mother, I realized she probably was so hurt that this big thing had happened to me that I didn't know what, and I didn't think to come and tell her. My initial, like, my thought was to hide it, like, to kind of, like, take care of myself. And I think I wonder in my childhood self around, I come from a single family, and I wonder how much of it is, like, that protecting. Even if you don't know what it is, like, who needs to put one more thing on? You know, like, add one more thing to the mess, and how children and young people internalize those messages, not because we're consciously telling them, come tell me. But if we really, like, in telling our own stories, if they really came and shared and told us all of what they're experiencing in the world every single day, that should be overwhelming. Like I literally constantly, my kids are coming to me and telling me about something that happened to them 2 years ago. And I'm like, wait, what? And they're like, yeah, I took care of it. It's fine. That kid, you know, like it's always like after fact. In particular, I would say, often it is around their queerness.
Mm-hmm.
Often it is around their gender, their sexuality, and how they're showing up in the world. And they'll come and tell me a story, or around how their race or something like that. Blue, my oldest, this literally happened 2 weeks ago. She came, we were talking about, I don't even know what we're talking about. She was talking about friends from home, right? Like kids are out of school now and talking about friends from home. And she said, yeah, I remember my friend from 3rd grade, she was best friend from 2nd to like 5th grade. And she said, yeah, she was white. And she said, yeah, she always made fun of my nose. She always said that my nose was flat. And I was like, what? I mean, my whole like,
Yeah.
so, and she's like, it's okay. Like I used to tell her nose was pointy and like, I would like do what I, you know, she was just like, I took care of it. And it was this sense of like, wow, how much? Like what I know feels like a lot. How much are you holding?
Mm-hmm.
And so, thank you so much for sharing all your stories, but in centering us in this conversation about queerness and queer parenting in particular, I guess the first question I have for both of you is, how would you define, or how do you think queerness is impacting your parenting? Like, how does it show up in your parenting? Want to start?
Yeah, sure. So two ways, I think. One is I identify as queer. I'm in a non-monogamous polyamorous relationship. And the way that I queer parent, or I don't know if I'm saying that right.
No, go for it. There's no
Parenting queerly?
Well, I guess I'll start with this. Parenting queerly. I love all of the variations.
I'm just like, what's the right
go for it. Go for it.
Yeah, I mean, I really like this definition of queering and how do you kind of always subvert and resist.
Yes.
And that's how I try to live my life. And I really like what you were saying in the beginning about the like queering of yourself is kind of a path towards liberation. And I deeply feel that. And I deeply feel that by doing that work by myself and out loud and sharing it within my family, and also kind of resisting and pushing against everything that my son gets from the world, is the way that I approach queer parenting. And so it's like a very intentional, really laborious, sometimes lots of fun too, but like what I've learned is like, you know, since he was a baby, I've been like this crazy person, been like, everybody can wear pink. All the colors are for everybody. Boys and girls can do anything they want. Plus there's all these other genders. Oh, like, so, you know, but he's been, the older he gets, he's always surprising me, because he's, first of all, like, I'm making it a thing. Yeah. And he's like, it's not a thing, because I already know. Like, I've already absorbed this. Yes, I know. Boys can love anybody they want, and girls can love anybody. Like, but what he's also always saying, which is really like smart, is that what you're saying doesn't always reflect what I see.
Absolutely.
Right? So I'm always like, boys can wear dresses if they want. And he's like, never seen it.
Yeah.
He's like, maybe true, never seen it.
Yeah.
It's like, bad, true. Okay, right? So then it's like, it's more than, it helps me to also complicate what I'm saying when I'm trying to say, you know, boys can wear dresses, right? It's actually like, all people can like express who they are, however they want, and that it's always evolving, and it's, you know, but it's the society is so heavily influencing what, you know, or often countering what I'm telling him. But it also really pushes me to constantly think of new ways to introduce him and to expose him. And like also, what is the community around him that I'm exposing him to? Like, if what he's saying is true, so what does that mean about our space? If I'm telling him like, Black people are dope and we're everywhere, queer people are dope and we're everywhere, and he looks out his window and he's like, this does not look Black or queer. What are you talking about, mama? You know. And the other thing I would say is having to do with sex and sexuality. You talked about earlier how we're kind of we project often our own traumas and our own kind of mislearning onto our kids. And I think like my son is super curious about sex at his age, and there's very little out there that is showing like brown bodies, that is showing all genders, that is showing queerness, and there's stuff that's like about reproduction. And like the way that I think about queering is also like about pleasure, and about consent and about power. Like I want him, that's also part of how I want him to understand how to be who he is in the world. It's like what feels good. And right now, like the information available for kids his age is solely about reproduction. And we know that that's a lie. You know, we know that kids are experiencing pleasure and experiencing their bodies way before they're interested in reproduction. So it's also about kind of breaking those rules and being like, no, like this is not just what sex is about. Like, and that your sexuality is your own thing to explore and understand that it's always evolving. It can always change. Like it's yours and you can be creative with it. So yeah, that when I think about queering, it's about resisting and subverting and being creative with how we exist in the world.
Absolutely. Leanne, what do you think?
So for me, like I think raising Tiana from a queer framework for me is all about really her being true to herself. So that's a conversation we have a lot. Like, okay, well, what do you want to do? But also like I want to think about things before she just do things, you know? So like, what do you want to do? Why do you want to do it? What's driving it? You know, so we have a lot of conversation around that. And then also, indeed, like Marley was saying, you know, but also contrasting it to the reality of the world. So like with me, I'm very laid back. And the thing is, eventually I'm gonna have to co-parent much more with my sister again. Like for the last 3 years, it's been primarily me, and then Tiana would go off for a few weekends or weeks, be with her mother. And my sister and I have very different parenting styles, where, you know, she'd be much more like, okay, you have to dress this way and look this way, and pink should be your favorite color because you're a girl. And then, you know, she'd come back to me and I would crack up about it. But it's like important, you know, for her to think about what she wants, why she wants it, and why she wants to do it, and have these conversations around that. So like, for example, my sister with the whole thing about pink and that, you know, she should only wear pink, but actually like Tiana's favorite color is blue, you know, and for my sister, she's like, no, I'm not buying her blue stuff. And I'm like, well, it's not about you. It's really about Tiana. It's about her being able to give voice to her wants and her needs and who she is and what she's about. So we have like a lot of those conversations. For example, some days I want her, because like we're going out to a family gathering or something, and I would want her to dress up for it, and she really just doesn't want to dress up. And I was like, okay, well, let's talk about this. What's happening? And as best she can at core, she'll explain, well, I just want to wear this, and I just want to wear that. And so like, you know, I pick my battles with her about that, because I think she also has to remain true to what she wants. So and it gets me in trouble with my grandmother in particular a lot. So the other day she wanted to dress up in her ballerina dress and with some leggings or something or the other and some slippers. But we weren't going anywhere like very fancy. We were just going to have a breakfast. And for my grandma's like, she could not understand like why I would allow this child to do that. And I was like, listen, I think it's about context and her also beginning to understand for herself context. So if we're going to church, which my grandmother ropes us into doing every once in a while, I was like, okay, we're going to put on a dress and we're going to go to church. But if she's just going to brunch with me, then, you know, it's about her deciding for herself how she wants to look. And we also have conversations because, like, one time she was doing something of the other and she realized that a lady was like looking at her strange, you know, like, and So she was asking like if she was doing something wrong. And I was like, oh no, you're not doing anything wrong. You're just doing something that people wouldn't necessarily expect you to be doing. I said, but you're not doing anything wrong. I'm okay with it. Are you okay with it? And she was like, yes, she's okay with it. And then she continued to play. So for me, a lot of it is exactly what she said. It's very laborious because you have to keep having conversations. You have to keep talking. For me, I have to keep doing work on myself as well. Because I remember the first time Tiana came and told me, and she was like 2.5. And she told me that, she was like, yeah, you know, this boy kissed me. And my initial reaction, even as much as I had, you know, deconstructed all that stuff in my head, my initial reaction was like, what?
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, what? Why is this happening? You know, and then we spoke about it, and she was like, yeah, he was kissing on her cheek, and then she liked him, and he liked her. And I was like, okay, because like for me, it's so foreign, you know. I was like, oh, what? But it was an interesting conversation within a couple of weeks it stopped. So yeah, for me, it's really about centering her and her knowing herself, because I think if she is able to know herself from very young, she's gonna be able to move in the world in a different way than I was able to do.
I think you both said a lot of things that are resonating with me around what it is to be a queer parent. And I mean, Lene, last week there was a talk, we were here, and something that came up at the end of it was this idea of having a queer womb. What does it mean to have a queer womb? She's fancy. You know, I was thinking about it, and something that had come to my mind was the idea of like, if you are queer parenting, your children are going to step into queerness because we all are queer. And if you allow for that openness, it's like that, like the variations of all of who we can be is going to show up. And then it's going to look, what's even crazier is it's actually going to look like something you've never seen before. Like it's going to shock all of us. Like there's no like, so these are the 5, you could be any of these 5 things, and they're going to be like 25. They're going to be like this other thing you didn't even imagine. Like, I mean, you know, our middle child, early, when she was maybe, I don't know, 7 or something, started really challenging us around the idea of incest. And I remember, like, she was just like, what is this thing? Why is it a problem? I don't understand. Tell me again. Like, she just really, I don't even know what she read or saw, or like what she was feeling, or like all of the, I have a deeper understanding of it now, of like how your first, like, love, romantic feelings are usually to someone that is close to you. So for her, it was probably a feeling towards her sister, like figuring out, so what is it? And just like asking tons and tons of questions. And I remember like I had to really check myself because I needed to enter into that conversation from a place of openness versus a place of like, well, that right there, you went too far, you know, like, and fear. Because you're just a child, like you're just asking questions, and all of my socialization was going to come into me. And so leaving the space for the conversation, she circled through it. Like she got to have all of the processing that she had, and as much as possible, feel like there was an acceptance to like have those thoughts and ideas. And so when she brought it to school, because that's the kind of kid she is, and brought those conversations, it got really heated in spaces because she didn't bring it from a place of like, she was like, so tell me. And really, you realize like so many things that we take as just like, it is what it is not based in anything that we ourselves rationalize and got to. It's just like, this we're told, this is what it is. Like you walk on this side of the street, you know, I was listening to, our family's obsessed with Trevor Noah, and we were watching one of his specials, and he makes this joke around like, when I came to New York, the stop sign, people stop at the light. That's crazy to me. Where I grew up, like you would never do that. Why do you trust the light? And I was just like, why do I trust the light? Like, why do I imagine when it's red, no one's gonna come and hit me with their car? Like I do. I was walking to the street. And you don't know how many times that's happening for us. And queer children, queer people, queerness questions all of it because what it knows is like who I am inside does not reflect none of it. You know, like, and if there is one iteration of it, there must be so many other multitudes of ways of being. And so everything you're saying. I mean, something that came up for you is that you guys mentioned. I wonder how you navigate it, because I think as it's hard in probably all family connections, but something particular about being in Black families, and I think being in Black Caribbean families, particularly. I'm first generation Jamaican, and this idea of how you navigate your child's queerness, your own queerness, like in community with others who love your child, but are deeply deeply indoctrined into white supremacy and like patriarchy and all of these things. How have you navigated that?
Mm-hmm.
Left the country.
It's real. No, it's real. It's real. It's real.
No, I mean, my mom is actually great, but I do think, we make some concessions, right?
Okay.
Like when you spend time with family. I've always been the one in the family who was stressing everybody out. Like, why are we celebrating Thanksgiving? Shut it down. I don't want, and they're like, oh, Marley. It's not a surprise. Like, I'm that member of the family, so it's not a surprise that, like when I was pregnant with my son, I was like, we're not finding the gender. I don't want you people like putting all your stuff on my womb. So none of those things are surprising, and they kind of just like they give me a lot of space to be me without trying to kind of change any of that.
And then you brought a baby. Then you brought the grandchild.
Yeah, I think when it comes to Sekani,
it happens.
It's a negotiation.
Something happens. Something happens.
Yeah.
Like, there's like I guess I didn't even really understand what family was until I had a child.
Mm-hmm.
So, and what I mean by that is like this idea that because we have some like, sometimes it doesn't even necessarily have to be like a blood connection. It could just be like, we are lineage, we are family. What that means is that we are all invested in everything that you do. And when you're the young people, you don't know why your auntie, cousin knows when your birthday is. You're like, I don't even know your name. But they know when you know what I mean? Like, they know when your birthday is, they know that you just graduated from here. They know all your business. You're like, why? Because we're family. What are you talking about? Yeah. And then you have a child and everybody.
Yeah.
Because you can do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
But see this one right here, that's one of ours. And so I think it is something happens.
The way that I think about it though is similar to in general, aside from people who are family, which is like my job is not necessarily to change the world. Mm-hmm. It is to make sure my kid is equipped for the world. So he knows, like, grandma's gonna let you do things that I won't do, what I won't let you do, or she might not be okay with you doing things that I would be okay. Mm-hmm. And you have to respect grandma. Mm-hmm. And you have to just roll with what grandma says at that time. Mm-hmm. You also need to know who you are and how you were raised and what you believe, mm-hmm. right? And you also need to feel free to challenge things and push back, but you're not going to disrespect anybody in the family. He, like, sometimes if he hears someone say something that might be sexist, like someone in the family, he would be like, he'll call it out, mm-hmm. And so I don't usually, especially now that he's older. When he was younger, I was a bit more like Mama Bear. But now I think there has to be a flexibility and a negotiation. And ultimately, he's the one going out into the world. I'm not always going to be there. Mm-hmm. And he has to be able to navigate and say, this is what I believe, regardless of what any of these people are saying or doing or expect of me. Mm-hmm. That I have the autonomy to make choices. Mm-hmm. I have the autonomy and the agency to decide what I believe in. And I have to respect my elders and do what they say ultimately mm-hmm. when my parents are not around, right? Mm-hmm. I think that also has to be how he needs to understand, like, this is your house here with your mom and dad, but that's also your family, and they matter, and what they believe also matters, even if we disagree. So the way they want to raise you when you're with them, you have to respect it.
It's messy.
Yeah.
It's so messy. Yeah, tell us how you know. Yeah, well, I know we know you're going to church sometimes if you have to. How else are you negotiating it?
Sometimes. My grandmother does these things. She ropes us in at least once or twice a year. My niece is also born on Christmas, so for the family it's a very big thing. For us, less of a thing. But yeah, so they you know. But one of the things is that my niece sees my grandma gonna have the best conversations about everything, about race, sexuality, gender, all these things. Very confrontational conversations too sometimes. And my niece is also a part of those, like listening sometimes. So she's well aware that, you know, I think my mother, my grandmother, I have very different ideas about things. And so for me, it's good that she sees those things as well, because just like Mari said, it's for her to get an understanding that with me, things may be one way, with Granny, things are another way, and with Mama, which is my mother, things, you know, expectations are differently. And where she saw that is really in the 7 to 7 days that she had to stay with my mother as well. My mother is a bit stricter than I am in terms of certain things, like, you know, and Tiana sort of molded herself into that and found her way in it, and, you know, didn't feel like, you know, I think restricted, and her and my mother also had to come to some interesting compromises sometimes. So I thought it was good for my mother as well. And in certain regards, I think, you know, as much as like I'm raising Tiana, like she's certainly also raising me, because for example, I've always been very confrontational with my grandmother about ideas about sexuality, and, you know, she's very Catholic, and, you know, telling her, like, you know, really what I believe and what I think she needs to sort of adjust her reasoning sometimes. And she's always been very supportive, but also very still questioning from a church standpoint what it is I'm doing and all this kind of stuff. But now, like, in order to create safe space for Tiana, I've also really begun to question her and challenge her on these ideas that, because my grandmother, like on Seva, she's very well known as a cultural icon, so to speak. And because of that, she's had very rigid ideas about respectability for her family. And, you know, for me, I've never really been into that, but I've never really challenged her, and I just kind of did my own thing. And now, because I feel like, you know, like I don't want Tiana necessarily hearing some of the things that she said around it, I question her about it and really confront her about it up front. And it's done, I think, good things for the family all around. Like I see people sort of bending a little bit, everybody, you know, and for me that is important, because things cannot stay the same. That's not progress, that's not moving. And so I'm really a defender of Tiana and a defender of her being able to express herself in the fullest way she can. Wherever she is, and of course, indeed, you know, within context, so in church, you can't be running up and down the aisle. At Granny's house, you can't just be touching everything. But still, that she's able, that she doesn't feel restricted in embodying herself.
Yes. So your stories are like hitting all of my stories. I think one thing I want to say that I've learned I told this story a while ago, and I've told it on a podcast before. When my middle child Moxie came out to me at 10, the first thing, like, she told me, and then she's like, "You got to call grandma," and I was like, right now? And she's like, "Yeah, right now." And part of what I know is that this person, I love her so much, and I know she loves me. Will she love me anyway? And if she's not, I need to know now. You know, like, we need to get to it now. And what I've been so impressed with my mother, who is like Jamaican grandma through and through, but also raised me, right? Also allowed for me to be who I am. That we can evolve, and we're expansive, and the things that my mother will allow for my children that she never allowed for me, is always like, it blows me away. It always I'm always impressed by it. I'm always like, wow, I didn't know you could do that. Like, I didn't know you, like, one day particularly, I remember they go similar, like when they were younger, they would go they're at my mom's house, and she goes to church, and she like has to, like, she wants to go to church, and they have to go to church. And every time it's time to go to church, they're like, you know, like dragging this, like they, like the preachers is on, like they're philosophizing with her and breaking down why she shouldn't be, all stuff. And they call me from the car, and they're like, she's like, "Noleca, I'm turning the car back around. we're going back to the house, and when you come here, we have to have a conversation, because every time, if they're gonna come here, they gotta go to church. If they don't wanna go to church, then they don't have to come, right? So I come back to America, and I was like, oh shit. They're ruining our weekends. Like, this is how I get a break. They're messing this all up for me. Just like, suck it up, children. Just. So we get back to the house, and I'm expecting, like, I don't know, it'll be a problem. And I come in the house, and it's kind of calm. I remember I walked in, and I was like, the energy here is not what I expected. Like, the energy was like real cool and calm. And I was like, okay. And my mother comes out, and she's moving around. She's like, so we're gonna have a meeting now. All right, come on, kids, children, come on, we're having a meeting now. I said, we're having a what? I was like, we're having a what? She was like, yeah, we're gonna have a meeting, and we're gonna talk about this. And she says, and they sit around, and she tells them, like, church is my thing. Like, you don't have to believe what I believe, but it's something I enjoy. Mm-hmm. And when you act the way you're acting, it kind of takes the joy out of it for me. And so what could we, and I was so blown away. I was like, who is this person? Is this like, who is this person? Yeah. And it was my mother, and more than my mother, it was their grandmother. Mm-hmm. And what, you said it earlier, like, your daughter, your niece is teaching you. Yeah. They are teaching all of us. Yeah. They were, even in their behavior, like they had so much integrity in how they engaged, so much respect. Like, they respected her enough to challenge her, that then she returned that respect with, like, I'm gonna make space for you. Yeah. We're gonna really talk about this. And I mean, I was just so impressed. I just sat there like, oh, this is like hard, really hard, right? And amazing, because something that happens when you choose to queer parent is your child is constantly going to call you on your shit. Yeah, exactly. It requires a level of integrity with yourself that when they're not looking, you don't have, like, you could say I'm about this thing, but they'll actually, when I'm at home, like, I watch this ratchet TV, or like, you do the things that, and when you're with them, they're looking at you all the time, like, but I thought you said, how come you didn't tell grandma?
But my niece did something very interesting. So, like, because I tell her all the time, like, listen, it's not, like, you don't have to throw a tantrum. You use your words, don't throw a tantrum. You can talk through things, and of course, every once in a while, she still have a tantrum, whatever, we talk it through. But one day, I remember, like, she's just, like, something was off with her, like, I guess she woke up grumpy or whatever, and it just escalated. And at a certain point, I'm like, listen, I love you. Like, right now, I don't like the way I don't like you very much right now because you're not behaving well. And then she was like, well, I don't like you very much right now either. And I was like, what? And then I was like, but she really made me have to, like, stop and be like, okay. And then, so I was like, well, what do you mean by that? And she's like, yeah, because you're angry too. And then, but really, it was interesting that I had to check myself because, I'm trying to teach her something, and to me, kids, they're also very much sponges, and so when I look at her, she's very much herself, but she's also very much parts of me. Absolutely. And so then I was like, I had to do better. I had to do better in the way that I argue with people, in the way that, and like, so she's looking, she's taking it all in, and I was like, okay, I have to do better. I have to, heal stuff. I have to work on stuff. And it's just interesting because they will call you out of it. So that word is like the integrity, like, especially if you're raising, and I always say, like, the downside of raising opinionated kids is they're going to give you your opinion. Yes. And it's not really a downside. That means that you have to deal with it. And sometimes you're not in the space, but you have to deal with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to open up if anybody has, like, a question or something else they want us to be thinking about. I can go on and on and on because there's so many thoughts. A lot of what I'm thinking about and wanting to help us start to navigate is this idea of what you brought up. And I think we're all, especially like in these times of like what we're saying the world should be versus what the world really is. And how do we, with integrity, have those conversations or with ourselves so that we can like have them with our children.
Yeah.
That's something that's going on in my head. But does anybody have a question for us or the panel, or like things that they are also pondering? Please jump in, ask.
I have a question.
Yes.
I have 2 children. One is 3 and one is almost 2. And they have a lot of queer aunties and uncles. A lot more than I have.
Yes.
And not just queer aunties and uncles, friends that I consider family,
Yeah.
but their actual uncle is queer and married. They have an aunt who's queer and in a queer relationship. And actually the queer aunties is the one that my daughter is also closest to. And there is one queer auntie who is like her only white auntie that she has that she loves really, really deeply. She was at your conversation, Shalik, and I was made aware through her relationship with her language when it comes to how do you express love and what language do you use? Because her queer auntie oftentimes says that she's in love with her. And in translating this in Dutch, the way that is contextually interpreted by me as a straight woman is between different genders. So I had heard her say it a few times, and then triggered some thoughts with me. But I also heard her teachers at daycare one time referring to my daughter being in love with one of the teachers. And so I brought it up to her father, and I said, I explained to him what it sounds to me like in Dutch and what it sounds in English. And he then said, surprisingly to me, I think she's at an age where we have the opportunity to make her feel free about that word, being in love.
Absolutely.
You know, and it was really eye-opening to me because I was still coming from a non-queer context and way of thinking where when you use the word in love, or in Dutch we say verliefd, you know, in my world or in the context that I grew up in, that means, you know, being in love with different genders. So queer parenting or parenting with queerness really was now, I'm just now understanding how important it is for my daughter, for my son as well. Also because I'm now getting to the understanding that the more I give them the opportunity to learn and parent queer, the more freedom they will probably feel to express themselves for who they are. You know, regardless of, you know, sexuality or preference, which will come at some point. But when Effie hears that her queer auntie is in love with her, that it's about how deeply her auntie is loving on her. You know, and not in the context of relationship or partner sexualizing that. So
I mean, you bring up so many things. One is how much, first of all, how, you know, I curse a lot, so I don't know the Dutch curse words yet, but it's like I don't have the right words yet. But how fucked up all of our socialization around sexuality is. No, like in Amsterdam, they got the red light district. I was like, oh, everybody's gonna be so open. No, their shit is all fucked up too. You know, like in the United States, you know, in church people, in queer people, like everybody, because the way you were socialized around sexuality is all about shame. And so we don't even know how to like divorce ourselves from shame around sexuality. And so then we just regurgitate it on our children, you know, even, and this idea that, I mean, one of the biggest lies we tell children is that like, the more options you have, the more freedom you have. When actually, the fact that there are just these options is a limiting that you don't recognize as a parent, right? Like I remember with clothes, oh my God, my babies, Moxie at the middle, when she was getting dressed in the morning was the most like painful experience for her. And at the time, I didn't know because I was like, you can wear anything you want. You wear jeans, pants, whatever you want. But getting to the closet, I didn't recognize I had bought or collected all the clothes that were in her closet. And that to her was limiting.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I'm thinking, tell me what you want. Like, I'm gonna bring all the things. And I didn't know she wanted a tie. You know,
Right.
I didn't, like, it was one day, it's like,
Yeah.
oh, you know, you can have access to all these closets. And she was like, oh, okay, good. Like now I can really start, now I can really get into it. I want my jeans to be real big, and I like this shirt that's this. And I didn't even know. But I thought if you would have asked me, I was like, we don't know, I am killing this parent game. Like, I don't even care. They could be whatever they want. No.
It's also the same with nail polish.
Absolutely.
Like, Effie was nail polish on as early as 1 year old. And other parents would really shun me for it. They would be like, your daughter can wear nail polish already? And then I went to think about why not? So why not? You know, what is it about a girl having nail polish, and what's our idea behind her? Because she's just being creative. For her, it's just color. It's just beautifying her being, you know? And clothes, nail polish, how we police their bodies as well. You know, it's been a real journey for me, and I think being open to queer perspectives has allowed my indoctrination to change. You know, because also you spoke about family. The people that have been most invested in my children have been their queer aunties and uncles. Actually, they're of course a lot she has a lot, but I get calls that they dream about her, you know, or that they have visions with her, or that they see pictures of her and now they're feeling some kind of way, or she inspires people. And I think it's very, very important for us to be really aware of what those relationships mean to our children.
Absolutely.
You know, like I said, I didn't grow up. I'm currently on the board of Crime Photo Award, and one of my reasons to actually be on that board, I was asked to be on the board, was for the family members in my family generation before me who couldn't be themselves. You know, and I sit there in honor of them because they were hiding. You know, so.
You done said a
I have
whole
a very,
word. Yes, go
I have a
for
very
it.
real question. I have a story and a question.
Yay, story
We're talking about sexualizing our kids and also navigating safety. So my son, I grew up also, my parents are Haitian, so Caribbean household, sleepovers were not a thing.
Oh, don't even ask.
Don't even bring it
that's
up.
Not even a thing.
Yeah, don't even bring it up. It's like
You
not
didn't even
gonna
consider it.
happen.
I wouldn't even, that's not even, you would never do that.
So, you know, always trying to push against how I was raised and being more open. So a friend of my son's was having a birthday party and a sleepover. And the mother is Indian and the dad is Dutch, but the dad, they've separated. So it was gonna be, I didn't know, I just know the girl, I just know the daughter. So I bring my son over and I get there and it's just like screaming girls. It's like 5 or 6, actually more, maybe like 7 girls and my son. And I went through so much turmoil.
Yes.
Because I was like, leaving my child here. You know, first of all, leaving your child somewhere.
Yes.
And when I got back out to meet my husband, I was like, why do I feel this way? Why am I panicking? And he said it perfectly. He was like, so many things could go wrong.
Yeah.
He's like, all of the ways that people use and abuse Black bodies and scapegoat in particular, Black boy bodies. It'd be so easy for something to go wrong and for it to be his fault. And I didn't sleep that night, you know. But it was like for me, like I didn't want to project. I can't say you can't spend the night. And this is also my question because I'm like, help. I don't want to say you can't spend the night because he will rightfully ask why, and I don't have a good answer for that. That is not soaking in my own fears and my own upbringing, my own fear of like what happens to kids who are left alone with other kids. You know,
this is one of the, to me, one of the most, I was gonna curse again, but I'm gonna find better words. This is one of the most horrific parts of oppression. And like, when you don't even get to own and sit in your own harm, the harm, like your trauma, the harm that has been caused you, the harm that is real. You're not being crazy, like it is real. Because in doing so, there's a way in which you feel like we are made to feel and think like, well, then I'm going to then put it off on somebody. I'm gonna bring something into the room that's not really here.
Yeah.
It's happening in my head. It could happen, but if I own it and I look at it and I say it loud and I actually move with it as, because I know what it feels like when my parents did that, and then it was fear and it was oppressive to me.
Right.
So we don't know how to navigate owning the fact that like real harm has been done to us, can be done without it being something of like oppression. Like, how do you own pain without also becoming
like hurting someone?
The oppressor?
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you how I do it, and I'm not that there, and I don't think there's one way. And first of all, know that we have to have compassion with ourselves, and I think that is something as parents we forget, like to love on ourselves. Like of course we're gonna mess it up. Of course we're going to get it. Of course, because we shouldn't be spending all of our time worrying about our children's safety. That is not the way it's supposed to be.
Right.
We think it's the way it's supposed to be because that's how it is. But in actuality, we should be spending our time being with our children, not worrying about keeping them safe. That is a product of this oppressive world that we live in. They should be safe.
Yeah.
There are children everywhere that are running around safe.
Yeah.
Like I'm here, oh my gosh, Amsterdam. I'm here and like children are like taking the ferries across by themselves and they're like 5 years, like, you know, and I'm not saying that there's not harm here too, but there's a different level of safety that is accessible to children here that my children did not know.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I want to just put that out first. The other part I want to say is we have to recognize that we are the center. And what I mean by that is like, however, I think we as Black women particularly, but like for every individual person, you are the center, right? And everything that is like in community with you has the capacity for all of who you are. That's your child, that's your partner, that's your parents, they have the capacity of all of who you are and all of what you're feeling. And so to say to your child, like, Mommy, there's a birthday party, I got excited to sleep over, I'm going, I want to go, everybody else is going, let's do it. And to say, this is really hard for me. And I'm like, you can say that to like any child that can think old enough to say, I want to go to sleep party, you can say, this is hard for me. Mama, why? Why is this, what do you mean? Why is this hard for me? Well, let me tell you the ways this is hard for me.
Yeah.
I know that people scapegoat Black boys. Like I am worried that someone, and I'm concerned that someone or something can happen and you're going to be caused harm. And I don't want that. I don't know these people that well. I don't know them that well. And you are the most important thing to me. And so entrusting them with you, I don't feel good about that right now. Right? And you can say that. And that's real. And you're like, that's your problem. I still want to go. You know, you're like,
get over it.
That's your problem. And you know what I mean? Oh, thank you. I said, he can say that, like, you still have to be you still have to be the grown up. Like, and what I mean by that is like, if you feel strongly enough about it, like, I know you still want to go, but I don't feel good enough about it right now to let you go. You're gonna have to deal with the consequences, the tantrum, like whatever comes with that, the hard feeling, and like it's. And if you do, and the same thing, if you do send him and he goes and it's great, you still have to do it. It was fine. That's fine, but it was fine. But the integrity around like you shared that and you released it and you have that relationship with him is powerful. And if he goes and something does go wrong, he gets to say and like, you know, I can go talk to my, like, mommy said this might happen.
Right.
Mommy said this might be some bullshit. You know what I mean? And here we go.
True.
Mommy, look what happened. Like, it's not your fault, boo. Like, I told you this might happen. It has nothing to do with you. This is what we got to deal with.
Right.
We know you will get to go to a sleepover. We are going to build community. We're going to build trust with people so you can have those experiences. This was not that time.
Yeah.
So I just want to, I guess, because we have to end. And thank you both so much. We don't have to end here, but we have to end. Thank you both so, I mean, first of all, it's like you're here. This is amazing technology. Thank you both for being here and like sharing your stories, sharing your children with us. Oh my gosh, I feel like I got to like be like auntie them a little bit, even though I never met them before. And I guess I just want to say like what it to me, queer parenting and like is just like being willing to recognize that there is a multitude of options. Like more than I could even imagine.
Yeah.
And even with the situation you brought up, situations we're all encountering, even there are, and I mean that question of like, why not? You know, like that question of like, why not? And let's talk about it. And you don't have to do anything. I just want to say like, it's okay not to do things. It's okay not to go to the party. It's okay not to buy the thing. It's okay. It's gonna be all right. There's gonna be another sleepover. There's gonna be another meal. Every decision is not the decision because you're in a hopefully a long loving relationship with this person. So we get to like figure this out over like decades. You know what I mean? We don't have to figure it out over decades. Thank you all so much at home. Thank you for watching. This was awesome. I hope you enjoyed too.
Yeah. Thank you.
We can.
Smooth wrap up.
It's so interesting the things you can do well and you don't know. Like there's no need for it until you like, oh, I do this now and I can do this.